Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new Ace in a Day gameplay for the arcade mode of War Thunder. In today's episode we shall be reviewing the B-34, an American medium bomber coming into tier of 2 and a battle rating of 2.7. To provide you with a brief historical overview as to the Lockheed Adventura from which this aircraft is derived and then the history about this sub-variant of the Adventura, we begin thus. Following on from the success of Lockheed's previous light bomber design, the Hudson, as used by the Royal Air Force from February of 1939, Lockheed proposed to the British Air Ministry in September 1939 to produce a maritime patrol or medium bomber design based on Lockheed's commercial transport, the Model 18 Lodestar. The design proposal coincided perfectly with the outbreak of the Second World War, and by February of 1940, Lockheed was contracted to produce 25 aircraft, under the designation of Adventura Mark I for Royal Air Force service. By the end of this year the order increased to 675 aircraft. The design itself was similar to the Hudson in appearance. It was powered by two Pratt & Whitney Double Wasp S1A4G 1850 horsepower radio engines. Its armament was improved over the Hudson, with 8 7.7mm Browning machine guns in total. 2 in a flexible nose tip mounting, 2 in fixed forward firing positions in the nose, 2 in a ventral turret, and 2 in a dorsal turret, with this dorsal turret being moved more towards the front of the aircraft to increase its firing zone compared to the Hudson. The plane could also carry up to 2,500 pounds of internal ordnance. Flying for the first time on the 31st of July 1941, the Venturas entered combat service with the RAF in low-level raider roles on the 3rd of November 1942. They conducted raids into Europe, such as the low-level daylight raid on the Philips radio factory at Eindhoven in the Netherlands on the 6th of December 1942. However, the plane was practically obsolete by this point, as the de Havilland Mosquito Mark IV had entered service with the RAF in May of that year. The higher top speed, range and similar ordnance of the Mosquito made it ideal for low-level raids, suffering lower casualties than the Ventura, which was vulnerable without fighter escort. Experiencing a short spell in the medium bomber role in 1943, the Ventura found itself in the maritime patrol role with Commonwealth Air Forces in 1944. Being phased out of service by the end of the year, a total of 3,028 Venturas were produced. A large number of these aircraft intended for European or Commonwealth use ended up being used by the United States instead. For example, the Ventura Mark II, which was powered by two Pratt & Whitney R2800-31 2,000 horsepower radio engines and could carry up to 3,000 pounds of ordnance, saw 487 aircraft produced. 196 of these were exported to the RAF or Commonwealth, the remaining aircraft being taken in by the United States Army Air Force. The Ventura Mark IIA was the Lend-Lease version of this aircraft, whereby only 66 of the 200 ordered were exported. The rest were used by the United States Army Air Force under the designation B-34 Lexington, i.e. the aircraft you see on screen today. It was up-armed by replacing the two 7.7mm Browning machine gun pairings in the fixed forward firing position and in the dorsal turret, with pairings of 12.7mm Browning machine guns in each location. These aircraft were used as anti-submarine patrol bombers and also saw service in the United States Naval Air Force under the designations PV-1 and PV-2 Harpoon. And with our historical overview concluded, let us take a look at the B-34 handles in War Thunder's arcade mode. Today's gameplay is brought to you from the air domination map Malta, using the following setup. For our offensive armament, we're using the universal 12.7mm belts, reason being that whilst these belts are the second most powerful available, falling short of their stealth belts, which have an additional incendiary in place of the tracer in the universal belts, we want that tracer round so we can see where our rounds are going, as when we open fire on a target we do not have the precision to make sure our rounds hit the mark every time. But instead we need to be able to see a tracer to see where our rounds are going, where they are missing the foe, and we can readjust our aim accordingly. More on that later. As for our 7.62mm machine guns, we're using the stealth belts, as these are the most powerful on offer, and typically due to their shorter range, i.e. 500 metres or less, by the time we do acquire a target accurately, we'll be close enough to use our 7.62mm machine guns effectively. For our gun convergence, we're using a 500m gun convergence, as all of our armament is based in or around the nose, it's not convergence reliant as such. And for our fuel load, we're taking the minimum 33 minutes to make it to the end of the game unscathed on fuel capacity. We will come on to our turret loadout and our bomb loadout a little bit later, but we should note right now that we have spotted an enemy Ki 102 and we're heading off to counter them. as if they are allowed to propagate up at higher altitude with a superior manoeuvrability, overall performance and armament, they will rip us to pieces, in particular that 57mm cannon they have, made perfectly for bringing down our aircraft. We decide in the meantime, as an SBD-3 comes up towards us, to make a fake head-on, putting in some rounds before snapping over the top of them, and a Russian gunship known as an SB-2M100. Whereby we can see here our superior overall climb rate at the start compared to the SB-2M, and indeed a vast number of the light and medium bombers we will face at our battle rating and tier, along with our overall engine power and handling characteristics, means we can hammerhead over the top of the pair and come about. But rather than pursue the SB-2M further, we keep our eye on the Ki-102 and we follow them now, as they seem to be engaged on one of our friendlies, and it is a Junkers 88C6. We need to catch the Ki-102 now, or it's going to be too late for us later on. We finally managed to set the Ki-102 on fire, and that will be enough, as our Junkers 88 ally seems to have emerged unscathed from their assault, and that is our first kill in the bag very shortly. In the meantime, having gone through that engagement, let us come back to the rest of our loadout. In terms of our bombs, we are taking the default 7x250 bomb load, whereby we have dropped 6 of the bombs and we're retaining 1 in order to minimise the overall mass of our aircraft. Now we could keep dropping all 7 over the course of a game, but that is a rather tiresome effort, and as a result it's easier just to retain the 1 bomb. And in an airfield domination game that can be very useful if you see an enemy aircraft landed on an airfield trying to capture it or repair on it, where you can just creep along and catch them by surprise with your bomb. As for our turrets, well, our turrets are interesting in the fact that our 7.62mm ventral turret, whilst armed with the armoured target belts, the most powerful on offer, does not do too much in the way of damage. It is more suited to warning you with its wide fire arc down low when an opponent is coming up from behind and from below. In the case of the 12.7mm dorsal turret on the other hand, the story is completely different, whereby we're using the universal belt, which is the most powerful on offer, and this turret with its very wide arc and ability to also fire forwards can do a lot of damage, especially when manually controlled against a foe who is right on your 6, where you can put a lot of rounds into their engine or into their cockpit and knock them out the skies. Moving on then, having secured the skies up at higher altitude for now, whereby the overall performance nature of the B-34 means that this plane enjoys being between 2,500 and 4,000 metres altitude. If you take this plane any higher than 4,000 metres altitude, there is a very sharp decline in the plane's performance, especially with regards to its engine performance, kicking off by the time you hit 4,500 metres altitude. You will find at lower altitudes, i.e. below 2,000 metres in particular, this plane seems to struggle to build up its speed and to build altitude. It takes a very long period of time. But we decide to make an incursion below 2,000 metres altitude here to pick on an enemy Wildcat, cutting them apart completely by surprise for our second kill. But in making this deep incursion, we find that we've got a P-38 Lightning on our 6 and they are catching. So we're going to use our superior manoeuvrability with speed at this point in order to essentially force the P-38 to overshoot. Whereby as they try to come around now, they're right in front of our guns and we almost hit them square on. Getting a couple of hits in the following pass. But it is not our intention to bring down the P-38. We can outmaneuver them in the long haul, and that is something you should note in the B-34. You can outmaneuver Lightnings very nicely, as long as the Lightning pilot is not aware of the fact they have the superior roll rate. Instead, we decide to just head away into the distance and stay alive to fight another day. So what about the manoeuvrability of the B-34? Well, in its ideal speed range of 300 to 400 km an hour, you will find that the elevator response to this aircraft and the rudder response are both alright. They are what you would expect, perhaps, from a bomber. Remember, at the end of the day, this is not a designed heavy fighter, this is not a designed fighter, this is a medium bomber you are flying. Meanwhile, your roll rate is incredibly slow, and this only gets worse when you start to go to higher speeds, whereby between 400 to 600 km an hour, you lose 75% of your roll rate. It's a very harsh lockup and something to worry about, and we saw that when we dived down the Wildcat earlier. Meanwhile, in the case of your rudder, you lose 25% of its performance and it's not too noticeable. And the elevator experiences no lockup whatsoever, so it's the control surface you can always rely on, and you can always pull a quick loop when going into those high speed dives, with your dive speed acceleration being reasonable and your maximum dive speed being 768 km an hour. But as we saw against that Lightning, you will not be outrunning the likes of your monoplane or twin-engined heavy fighter counterparts, i.e. those designated for the role. When we come around to speed as well, what we should note is that in terms of your stall speed characteristics, you begin to feel your stall specs at roughly 180 km an hour, with your stall speed being 140 km an hour. So the stalling nature of this aircraft makes it feel like a mono-engined fighter. It is a rather quick stall and one you don't have to worry about too much. And the way this plane handles upon stall, as we've already seen when performing our hammerheads, and we'll see again later on in this gameplay, it is a pleasure to stall out in, and you can hammerhead very nicely with it. Moving on from that, we can see that as we head back up to altitude once again, we begin to build up our performance once more. And by being aggressive at the start of the game, we've been able to clear the skies above us for some time. We have not received any threats from up on high. And this applies whether you're playing as the highest battle rating aircraft in the game or the lowest battle rating aircraft in the game, i.e. a 3.7 match, because what you have to keep in mind is the fact that you pick up a bomber spawn. So that does put you in contention to face the likes of the Junkers 88C6, the plane which we reviewed on Christmas Day, link available in the top right corner of your screen as displayed now. And by comparison, the B-34 is much more manoeuvrable. It has the tighter turn circle and the overall responsiveness on its controls, but it lacks the firepower in terms of its offensive armament, and that is something we'll come onto later. This plane is also slightly faster, both in a straight line and in the dive, whereby its acceleration in a straight line from its stall speed up to 350 km/h is reasonable, and you can extend this up to 425 km/h with war emergency power. But do remember, as soon as you hit 4,000 meters altitude, you lose a lot of your acceleration. We go head to head with an MC-202 here, cutting apart using our superior durability to swath off their fire, and then we carry our manoeuvrability forward here with our speed and go for a P-36A. But we decided last minute to switch to a lag-free, reason being the lag-free is the more important target with their 20mm cannon in the nose. We weren't able to take them out, but we were able to scare them for a bit, and now we carry our momentum through and head towards a TBD-1 Devastator, as they do have some nose-mounted armament. As we look down, we see a Sea Hurricane Mark 1B stalling out underneath us as they try to climb towards us, so we'll just go into a stall ourselves and retain a good amount of energy from our head-to-head passes. And that is one thing that will catch you by surprise in this aircraft: it has reasonable energy retention to the level of some of the monoplane fighters you'll encounter. Perplexed by the fact that Spitfire Mark 2A was harassing our friendly Sea Hurricane, the enemy Sea Hurricane, their friendly Sea Hurricane, we decided to switch for the Spitfire. The Sea Hurricane being unaware of this by the looks of things, but still, we've enabled them to actually play a bit of the game. We decide to go vertical once more, retaining a good chunk of energy from our previous dive, and we loop over. We can see by enabling the Sea Hurricane to level out and build up some speed in that initial dive, the Sea Hurricane is now on a level to go head to head with us for a short period of time, although they are on the verge of their stall, and we'll see that only some of their 7.7mm machine gun rounds connect, not all of them, as we pick up another load of damage and pick up our 4th kill as well, using our durability to stay alive in the head-to-head. We continue through here, and we notice there is still a presence of enemy aircraft up high in the sky at level altitude with us. We decide at first to go for the TBD-1 lag-free combination, but we can see here as we go to high speeds, i.e. in excess of 400 km/h, we lose the precision in handling our aircraft, and going after that TBD, which is highly manoeuvrable with increasing speed by the looks of things, we just will not be able to track the target, and it is a fruitless effort. So we decide to break away before becoming trapped amongst 4 enemy aircraft, and we also pick up on the fact that lag-free is heading towards us, perhaps the one from earlier, perhaps an entirely different foe, but they are the only player heading after us at the moment. And this is something you need to be aware of, is the fact that when you do get locked onto by a foe, especially in a mono-engined fighter, they will follow you around the map, because at the end of the day they will be able to catch up to you over time. You're not going to be able to outrun them indefinitely, and it can be a pain when you're really trying to survive in a game and you know you've got that one guy who seems obsessed with bringing you down. Whether you are a YouTuber or not, it will happen. And in response to this lag-free, we're going to come around whilst they are still at a lower altitude than us and therefore in a weaker energy state, and we're going to take advantage of our position. Going straight for them, we're going to do the thing they don't want us to do. And we can see here they're swinging left and right, trying to snap right out of the way, dodge our fire. And they seem to be on the verge of a stall as well, as we damage the oil tank, and they take some recurring fire from our friendly Spitfire. We come around to this point, but again we can see as we go into a gradual dive and we build up our speed, the lag-free only needs to make slight adjustments to their position in the sky, and we cannot follow them precisely, because we do not have the manoeuvrability to, as we are a bomber at the end of the day. Heading up once more, the Spitfire heading off to finish off by the hopes of things. We loop over and see a Sea Gladiator heading towards us. And this is a plane we intend to go head to head with. But looking at our durability and the fact we've taken a lot of damage already, we're becoming nervous. We open fire at long range and then we decide to break out, but the Sea Gladiator can follow us, and this is a mistake on my part. And again, this goes to show the durability of the B-34 to low caliber machine gun fire once more, as we cause the Sea Gladiator to stall out underneath us and we loop over the top, for a snap roll and then heading into our loop. Now we talked about the durability of this plane, or hinted at it for an amount of time, let's actually go into it. The durability of the B-34 is very interesting. The airframe itself, as we're going to pursue an Su-2 here for our final kill of the game, the durability of this aircraft itself is very good. And you're going to see here, we should interrupt, how the lack of precision and our need for tracers in order to adjust our 12.7mm machine gun fire, as at first we were hitting the target and then our aim dropped below the lead indicator, and the tracer alerted us to this as we thought we were still hitting through the distribution of our rounds. And we come about to try and finish them off by setting them on fire. So coming back to the durability point, the airframe of this aircraft is extremely durable, as we have seen, and you can take a lot of damage before being shot down, even from 20mm cannon fire. And we can see here how the Su-2 has blackened our central fuselage and we are still flying fine, albeit with some loss of manoeuvrability, but not too much. But the engines of this aircraft are very, very weak, and we're being extremely fortunate not to lose an engine yet or have one burst into flames. These engines, if hit by the smallest amount of fire, even from 7.62mm machine guns, will burst into flames or just break. As a result, when you're going after this aircraft, aiming for the engines is your number one priority. If you can hit the engines, the plane will burst into flames, or the engines will get knocked out, and this plane will fall out of the skies very quickly. So the durability covered then, and the fact that our gunners are still alive, which is not only an indication of our maxed out vitality on our gunners, but the fact that our gunners can take a lot of hits due to their positioning, we start to capture the zone. And carry our momentum forward, are there any other points we should discuss about this aircraft, as we look towards an enemy I-153, and we're wondering whether we should go head to head, as they may come towards us at the end, and we want to get away from that SBD-3 that is above us. We go head to head with the enemy biplane here, and we realise very quickly that if we stay in this fight for too long, they will remain on our 6 and rip us to pieces as they graze our tail section. So we decide to use our dive speed here against the biplane to get away. We want to live to fight another day. We wiggle as we go down, using our very responsive elevator at high speeds in a dive to make sure we evade the incoming fire. We can very quickly pull the distance in the I-153, and our rear facing 12.7mm machine gun turret is also going to pepper their screen. And we just head off into the distance now, having helped capture the zone, and that will be it for us for the rest of this game. We're not going to push our luck any further, as we also exhaust our war emergency power for some time. The final point I guess we should point out is in terms of, well, there's two more points we should point out. The climb rate of this aircraft is what you'd expect. It's very similar to that of a Junkers 88C6, but falls well short of the dedicated heavy fighters, such as the Beaufighter for example, or the KR-45 or KR-100. On top of that, when your machine gun ammo count gets to approximately 320 rounds left, you will have exhausted your 500 12.7mm machine gun rounds and only have 7.62mm machine guns available in the front. And with that, that's the end of the game. Let us take a look at the post-game stats. With our ace and single zone capture, we're able to pick up 21,705 silver lions and 2,700 research points. To defeat the B-34 in a given matchup, I can recommend one of two options. The first is if you're flying a more manoeuvrable aircraft than this plane, i.e. any mono-engined fighter, or a heavy fighter that is more manoeuvrable, such as the KI-45 or the Beaufighter Mark 6. In this instance, you can engage the B-34 in a level altitude turn fight and come out on top over the long distance. Whereby, even if the B-34 is able to turn with you to start with, if you're flying a plane such as the Yak-1 or Messerschmitt 109, you will encounter this. Due to your superior ability to build up your speed in said turn fight and retain your energy typically, you will find that eventually you will come onto the 6 of the B-34. And if you can apply your roll rate, which will be superior to the B-34's very poor roll rate in most instances, you'll be able to come out on top faster. Although do be wary of the rear facing turret armament of the B-34 and what that can mean for your airframe. The alternative approach, if you're flying a less manoeuvrable aircraft, especially a heavy fighter or a dedicated bomber, such as the Junkers 88C6 or even the likes of the Messerschmitt 110C4, is to go head to head with a B-34. As, whilst the B-34 does have two 12.7mm machine guns in the nose, you will typically have 20mm cannon in your nose. And as a result, you'll have similar range to the machine guns of the B-34, but do a lot more damage in the long distance head-on and be able to shred apart their cockpit despite their high durability. But by avoiding such circumstances today, and on top of that avoiding being ganged up on over the game, we were able to survive and demonstrate the B-34 as a rather interesting medium bomber which can be used as an effective heavy fighter. Albeit you always need to be on your toes for those foes who are coming up towards you, and be aware of the fact that you will have to take some hits in order to succeed, and with the high durability of this aircraft you can do so. Just do not let anyone shoot at your engines, as otherwise that will be your downfall very quickly, as either they will stop working or your aircraft will just burst into flames. Indeed, with the B-34, it can be quite the Adventura. And so I've been TX141, and if you've enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future War Thunder videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and good luck in the skies.